So anyway, I turn and I say to him, I just look him dead in the eyes and I say, listen, this is going to go one of two ways. You could let me pilot this monorail right now and we can drop this. Or the other option, and you need to know this, I'm maybe 6 years old, but I can whittle this popsicle stick from that Mickey bar down to a very fine point very quickly. You will bleed out within 4 minutes. And that's why they don't let anybody in the front part of the monorails anymore.
So you're the problem.
It was an elevated situation, but it in the moment it made sense. And I think if it was you, it would have made sense too. I firmly believe
probably.
So, welcome one and all again to On the Hub Grass. I am Mason.
And I am Matt.
And we are coming at you, continuing our 50th build-up celebration, getting ready for the 50th of Walt Disney World. We'll get into what we're covering in a couple minutes, but along that line, I heard you had a tricky moment or an unpleasant moment going after the 50th toys at McDonald's today.
Yes, I did. So prior to the show, we filmed this show in the evening, and I put my kids to bed before this, and I had my wife. I was craving a Diet Coke, and I said, "Hey, babe, can you run me get me a Diet Coke? And while you're there, just grab me a kids meal because yesterday, for all of you listening, McDonald's dropped the 50th anniversary toys that we talked about, I think last week and a couple weeks prior." And I was like, I'll just get one. I just want to see what they're like, the quality and things like that. Mm-hmm. And ironically enough, as we talked about last week, the reason why I wasn't really hoping or wasn't really excited about these toys, it was my debacle of collecting the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway toy train that you got like individual items from the train, or characters on themed train cars.
You had a hard time getting them.
I did, and funnily enough, one of them I didn't get was Donald on the Mad Tea Party, and if you could see it in my set, that's the one I got tonight instead of one of the. Go. Yeah, so it would have been really awesome if it was Tower of Terror, but I got Donald on the Mad Tea Party. So all of you looking for the 50th anniversary, watch out! You might get some old Disney Happy Meal toys at McDonald's because they're trying to get rid of the old Mickey and Minnie toys. Interestingly enough.
At least it's Disney related, you know.
No, and that's true. And like I said on that podcast, I think these toys are much better than the 50th anniversary toys just because they are themed to the parks. So I can't be too upset. But the one thing I saw today when I was looking at people getting these toys is that the backgrounds are pretty cool.
So, hold on now. Hold on.
Okay.
Because I got a flip side to that story. Because right before we recorded here, it was late. My wife and I, we had a kind of we were working late, both of us, so we ran out really quick just to run some errands. And we didn't know what to do for dinner. We got to go grocery shopping later this week. But so we just kind of on a lark just to see, we got them.
Nice.
We got two. We got
that's amazing.
We got and two different ones to boot. We got Sebastian here.
Oh, beautiful.
And he is repping, like you said, a wonderful background. For it's what, lenticular or
lenticular,
lenticular, and it is Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood Studios, and it goes from day to night really nicely here, and then and it's got like a little bit of pixie dust kind of going all over, and then it has an icon for the back of the park, which here you probably can't see. If you're watching the video, you probably can't see because the lighting's not quite right for it. But it is the Tower of Terror, and it has Hollywood Studios here at the bottom, and it says around the top, "The World's Most Magical Celebration." So that was one of them. Sebastian's kind of fitting. The show's been there forever.
Yeah, currently not open, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, it'll probably be
reimagined.
Come back and reimagined, yeah.
Yeah. What a debacle that was.
That was a
We'll,
nice, yeah.
yeah,
And
we'll
then,
get into that in a minute.
yeah, repping Epcot preemptively,
Oh,
Rocket Raccoon.
oh, cool.
Yeah, which is fabulous. I love Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, as do
So,
I.
and then it has Spaceship Earth on the back with the
Beautiful.
Epcot logo, the nice classy Epcot logo. Um,
Oh, is it?
and yeah, it's like that retro kind of curvy
Oh,
one.
beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. It
The one they're bringing
really
back.
nice. Yeah, honestly, I think I said this when we talked about it. I wasn't really interested in them, but and just generally, I don't really like going in on fast food,
Yeah.
but these are cute. These are really cute. It does show like the full list on both sides of all of the characters that you can get, and the however many the core characters are all in their celebration outfits.
Oh, I didn't
So
realize that.
yeah, I didn't either. When I realized that, I was like,
Ah,
oh, okay.
I might need those. I might need those.
So yeah, so I guess 2 down, 48 to go.
Yeah.
And you know what? The Happy Deals are what, $3.99? They're a bargain.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
picking up maybe one or two of these two more of these might.
No,
be-
it exactly. Yeah, and another kick in the balls for this trip too. I didn't get the box. It came in. They apparently were all out of Happy Meal boxes. It came as like a small brown bag from McDonald's. So
Oh.
I didn't get the box. I was just like, come on.
At that rate, you
But-
should have just gotten a big kids meal. Do they still sell those?
No, I think I think it's like a 4-piece and a cheeseburger and a hamburger.
6-piece,
I,
yeah.
I don't think they even have the 6-piece anymore.
I don't think they. Oh no, they do. I saw it on the menu tonight.
Oh, they do.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if they got rid of big kids because of the word big and early 2000s changes going on. I don't know. Like,
maybe.
But
Yeah.
but yeah. So, and while we're on it, I do want to mention. I wanted to bring up for our listeners out there. We have made a recent amendment to our Patreon. That is very exciting, and we wanted to talk about it. As some of you long-time listeners will remember, around episode 10, we did a kind of a celebration giveaway. And we are nearing episode 20, and at every 10th episode, we still do want to be doing those giveaways. However, we especially want to be rewarding and engaging with those listeners out there who have been engaging with us. So, going forward, as a special treat to our patrons out there, you are going to automatically be entered into these giveaways. These giveaways are now going to be Patreon exclusives. We're going to have some fun things. It's going to be a little difficult now that all of the Disney stores have left town, but we're going to get creative. We're going to have fun. I will be putting together this next box because I thought it might be fun if maybe I put together the one box and then you take care of the next. Like we'll kind of go back and forth. It'll be a
Love
fun
that.
way of engaging. Yeah. So I will be putting together this box. It will be since we're heading into October. Might be a little more Halloween themed. We're gonna have some spooky fun. Yeah. And so right now, I think we just have our one patron, Tim. So a great friend of the show. So right now he stands unopposed. So I think we have 2 weeks if you want to get in and have a chance to beat Tim. But right now, Timmy, it looks like you have a Halloween package coming your way. But we'll see. We'll see. So yeah, you wanted to talk about the Nemo show, Nemo Gate?
Yeah, Nemo Gate. I just want to talk about it for a second, because in this leads into a little bit of conversation about another program that I'm on. So I've seen a lot of hate regarding WDWNT or WW News Today, and they were the ones that kind of broke this story about Nemo. For those who don't know, earlier this week, And this is coming actually from some influencers that were also announcing this because they had some friends that were in the show saying that they got their closing notice, that Nemo was closing, and it was closing indefinitely because they got their closing notice. And so WWNT, along with even some other outlets, but they were the first one, came out and said that Nemo was closing. And then today we found out that they're going to be reimagining the show. So
You mean cutting back?
Yeah, cutting back basically.
Essentially.
Because from inside sources that were in the show, they were a part of the teardown of some of the puppets. And so that's what kind of made it firm to them that the show was ending, because they were decommissioning some of the puppets.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a shame. That's bad.
Yeah, and so maybe we don't want to get into it now, but she's seen a lot of hate recently about WWNT and their misinformation. But I think it was an honest mistake by everyone that was reporting it, because I know that there were some former cast members that have made kind of themselves popular on TikTok and Instagram that were also reporting this because they had friends that were telling them this closed. So I'm sad to see that they're cutting back on the show, because I didn't really see a reason why they needed to cut back the show. And it's supposed to be coming back mid to early next year. So at least we'll get some entertainment back in Animal Kingdom. Funny enough, we're talking about Animal Kingdom today.
Yeah, well, honestly, that was going to kind of spin into one of my points I was going to make later, but we'll get into that when it comes. Yeah,
and for me, that theater is very important to me, because one of my earliest Disney memories and most fond Disney memories was Tarzan Rocks, and that was where Tarzan Rocks was, and that's why that show is somewhat special to me, because one of my most memorable Disney stage shows was there. And again, it was a super fun show, and I hope they at least keep some integrity there of that original show, because I think entertainment is important in the parks.
Yes.
Not only as crowd management, but another added benefit and kind of extra kind of setting Disney apart from other theme parks, or Disney theme park with a lot of other amusement parks out there. So.
Yeah, I've said it multiple times on this show. I'm not a fan of shows in the parks. However, I will say that the Nemo show was a standout and was definitely probably the best one on property, in my opinion. Whatever that may be worth.
Yeah. And ultimately, I think for not being a entertainment-based park, I think Animal Kingdom has some of the best entertainment in all of Walt Disney World, from Nemo to Lion King. I think those are some of the most well done shows in all property. So
within regards to theme park journalism, I think just kind of wrapping that up. I know that certain sources have a certain history and kind of a track record. But there is a lot of misinformation that goes around in this community, because I know that the parks do play a lot of things close to the chest.
Definitely.
Would a certain level of a certain or like a higher level of accountability help? Maybe, probably, but
sure.
But at the same time, again, there is a lot. There's only so much that can be done in this sort of field, and I think, especially with how big this field is now. I mean, we're in it. Like, there's so many sources out there,
for sure,
and things. I can imagine that there is a lot of pressure to be the first one to have these scoops.
No, definitely.
So you don't always necessarily have time to check the reliability, or go as deep as you maybe want to or should. But anyway, moving forward, staying in the animal kingdom, ladies and gentlemen, because what we decided to do with this journey, this hype, is not just stick to the Magic Kingdom. We wanted to take these next 4 weeks before we, head down a different path to explore each park, give each park its own moment in the spotlight in different senses. Last episode we did a Magic Kingdom top 10. This week we are doing an extinct safari, fittingly in the Magic Kingdom.
Animal Kingdom.
Animal Kingdom. One of these kingdoms. But there is a level of magic there. There is a level of magic in this. Because we are talking about something that is so very near and dear to my heart, both metaphorically and quite literally right now, as I am wearing a shirt for it.
Love that shirt, by the way.
Thank you. I think this was from one of the big YouTube channels. I think they designed it. Yesterworld. I think it was their. Yeah, I think it was their design shop. If this is yours and it was actually yours, let me know and I will add an addendum in there in the next episode or something. Yeah. But we are talking about the great, legendary Beastly Kingdom. So I've been a fan of it for years now, and I've been very outspoken about it. But as we were doing our research for this, you told me you weren't as versed in this. This was sort of a journey for you.
It was. So I would definitely call myself a Animal Kingdom stan. Animal Kingdom is probably my favorite park.
Yeah.
Because not only because Joe Rohde is my favorite Imagineer, and this was his project. Oh yes, Daddy Joe. Is that I kind of viewed it as like, I view myself as a Animal Kingdom purist in a way, because like what was built was like the original intention. So I was very much in love with the original Animal Kingdom and the things I grew up seeing in the early 2000s and things like that, shortly after the park was built. And so I was very much entrenched in that history of what was actually built in there. And the kind of the storied history of Joe making basically what Walt's dream was of having live animals in a theme park. And I was also very much entrenched in the building of Expedition Everest and all of that storied history. So I never really got into the history of the very early stages of Animal Kingdom. I just kind of really fell in love with what I had experienced and was entrenched in that. But looking at all the history around Beastly Kingdom, I realized that I knew about Beastly Kingdom more than I realized, because that early McDonald's toy run. Speaking of which, yeah, and I know you have that toy. Is that I remember having that. I remember having that dragon, and all those toys, and I never really made the connection why there was a dragon in my Happy Meal toy until I started researching all of what was planned for that, and now, and now we have Pandora, which is in that space.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for me, and I realized that what they could have created with Beastly Kingdom would have been really amazing. Not only from an original idea, but also putting some IP as well, of some IP that doesn't get much representation. We'll probably get into that here in a few minutes. But I think it's a beautiful concept, and I'm now in the past 48 hours realizing I hope that those small little remnants that we have of Beastly Kingdom don't leave. And again, we'll get into what those kind of Easter eggs left behind.
Yeah. So what I figured we'd do is kind of start at the beginning and kind of explain what Beastly Kingdom is to those of you out there who don't know. I'm sure we have a lot of hardcore fans who do know,
Sure.
but just in case you don't. So on opening day, on Earth Day of all days in 1998, April 22nd, at the inaugural speech that Michael Eisner was giving, he said that Animal Kingdom was dedicated to animals real animals, animals of the past meeting dinosaurs and animals imagined. Very, famously and still to this day, part of the logo is a dragon.
Yeah.
It's front and center in the logo for Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, the center animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the plan always was to have a land dedicated to these creatures, and this was supposed to be in what is now the land that takes up Pandora. So sort of a thing, as you guys will see as we continue on, throughout Disney history, as we talk about projects from this time period around like late 90s, early 2000s, is the kind of what I lovingly call the curse of Disney, the curse of Euro Disney. And I think you'll see that there was this trickle down from kind of the financial failure that Euro Disney was back then, that happened, where it ended up killing a lot of projects before they got the chance to really come into their own, and projects that probably would have been amazing. But this is one of them, because when the budget came down to it, because maintaining live animals for like the safari, it ended up costing a lot more than they were anticipating. So when it said Michael Eisner had to make the final call for which land would get greenlit first, and the other would get pushed to phase 2 between Dino Land and Beastly Kingdom, he saw Dino Land as a better choice because of corporate synergy with the upcoming dinosaur film. I believe also he could make a sponsorship with McDonald's, of all things, work.
Correct.
Better that way, or they would chip in more. Which ties in. They're very present in this episode. It's very weird.
McDonald's forward this episode for sure.
But also, it was just the 90s, and everyone loved dinosaurs in the 90s, I feel like.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. This land got pushed to phase 2. It was taken up by Camp Mini Mickey at the start of the park when it opened, and it stayed that way for almost 20 years until Avatar came along and they decided to take that land up. Yeah. But there were these references that got put in into the land, or rather all around the park, to kind of hint at the stories to come. And did you get anything? Did you get anything on those references around the park? I know that they.
Yeah, and I think the biggest kind of places that had the references obviously were the entrance sign. We see that there's the head of that dragon there. It's still there today, and I think the biggest precursor that we saw implemented actually in the parks was part of the Discovery Riverboat ride, which was quickly defunct after a year. That the original plan was to have a full-on animatronic of a dragon that would breathe fire, kind of attacking the boat, which was just budget cut down to a cave that shot fire out, and
which I don't. And I'm sorry, I don't fully get what was so difficult about it, because really, they could have just basically cloned the dragon that they have underneath the castle in France.
No, I think that was the original plan, was to use that animatronic, because they recently built that, so that was in the wheelhouse. But then they decided to divert funds to. I don't know if you saw this, they actually built a Aladar animatronic that was on the boat ride, in synergy with the release of Dinosaur. And I'm actually a huge Dinosaur fan. I actually loved that movie and loved it as a kid. Again, got all the McDonald's toys from that release as well. So it was interesting, because I did not know they did that until watching some videos and reading some history about Beastly Kingdom that they had
Oh, yeah.
built that animatronic, which then became part of the backlot tour
Yeah.
in Paris, I think. So
Ironically, they both ended up in Paris
yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
That was like the kicker to me because it was yeah, and that one just rotted away.
yo, yeah,
Did you ever see pictures of it like
it was
from recent
horrifying.
years? Oh yeah, it's horrendous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I watched some videos of that animatronic. It was beautiful. It's way better than the animatronic they have in the dinosaur ride, in my opinion. It has such it was so immense and life size, and also had some really great articulation and animation. I'm sad that it was became derelict, and the maintenance was not done well on it,
So
and now it's a skeleton,
yeah,
sadly.
so I'll tell you, I spent a chunk of this morning looking at as many different home movies of the River Tour as
Yeah.
possible. And the crazy thing is, I think there was a tear in his skin at some point,
Oh.
early on. So the hole just grew, and they just left it there. And some
Oh.
cast member on the video that I was watching said, "Pay no attention to the hole in his neck," like pointed it
Oh
out.
no.
Yeah, I was like, "Whoa, bad show," but
Yeah.
yeah, but it was
No,
fascinating.
well,
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
and the riverboats were supposed to have so many more um, references and integration into Beast of the Kingdom
Yeah,
in those first couple of years prior to them building it in phase two. Obviously, we had the unicorn towards the end of the ride or end of the riverboat,
yeah,
which was still there. But that was supposed to be like a massive show scene with fog. Obviously, it was supposed to have a really big presence in the actual land, but on
hmm
that riverboat tour, it was supposed to have like some really mystical fog and things like that.
yeah,
And then also when you're going to approach to get a quicker or closer look at the unicorn, there was supposed to be like a kraken that
yeah.
attacked the boat, which that was very like
Crazy.
Jaws esque, which I thought was
Yeah,
really really great. I think the reason that riverboat failed so quickly is that they didn't have all these pieces that were supposed to be there to
hmm
entice guests and keep them interested along this boat ride. Because really, you're there's not much to see on the river
yeah.
because
No, and that's
you're so low compared to everything
yeah,
else in that area.
and that's why I think it got defunct so quickly because it wasn't. It was so slow. There was nothing to see, so it really wasn't a useful mode of
No, yeah,
transportation, and it was boring. So they
yeah,
tried all kinds of different things to keep it engaged. They brought live animals onto the boat and had like an animal show at one
yeah.
point. Um,
Like some
and
lizards and things. Yeah.
yeah, well, I'll get into that in 1 second, actually, because I had some fun notes. So originally, what was supposed to happen was the Kraken was going to attack your ship, the riverboat, and a tentacle would come up, and the captain would have to play a lyre to subdue and
Oh,
calm the yeah, subdue and calm the beast, and then it would sink
interesting.
back down and let you proceed. Um, so that was the first thing that was interesting, and I
Yeah.
thought that was such an interesting,
Oh, very much. That's awesome.
oh, well, even just an interesting creature to work in to this beastly kingdom. There are some interest, like some animals that they added in. I was like, okay, that's a nice deep cut, or a deeper cut than just the basic unicorn and dragon.
Sure.
I will say that um, the unicorn was taken out very early, and apparently it was just left backstage with a
Hmm.
note that it would be for sale for like an exclusive cast member auction or whatever. The
Interesting.
cast member ended up paying, I think, $250 for it.
No way.
Yes, and it's very well known now on Instagram as Beastly the Unicorn, and I think they follow us. So if the owner
Oh,
of Beastly the Unicorn is listening,
hit
I
us up.
personally, hit us up, and I'm a fan. I've been following you for a while. Keep up the good work, and you're a wonderful steward of the
That's
unicorn.
awesome.
um, but yeah, so the other interesting thing is the kind of the dragon's cave because
Hmm.
um first off, going, the original plan was to have an actual animatronic there. Obviously, they moved that over. But in all the promotional stuff, like on the McDonald's boxes, even
Yeah,
on like the cups, they had like a huge dragon coming out of the cave.
it was
Like that was like,
massive. Yeah,
yeah, it was crazy. And the one on the kids meal was a little, looked a lot more like the toy. But there was another one I think that was on cups where he was like huge, just lunging out of this cave. It was
yeah.
crazy.
Well,
Um,
and I
yeah.
believe that artwork was on some of the concession cups,
Yes.
uh, like in the early like first year or two, at Animal Kingdom. So
Mhm.
that dragon was everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. And the crazy thing is, like, the first video I saw, which I think is the earliest, um, uh, what there was like they had a bunch of fog machines on around it, and it looked really cool. And I think that sold it best. I know for cast member previews, they had a ton of night corpses strewn all over the place on pikes. It was really gruesome. And yeah, for like a week or something. And I'll tell you what, friend of the show, Josh Steele, we had him on here a couple weeks ago. He actually saw that in person, which I thought was incredible. And like, because I'm so into this history. I'm like, what? Like, you got to see history, man.
Oh yeah,
But even he was like, whoa, that's not Disney,
yeah.
man, because
Well,
it was really gruesome.
yeah, and I think similar to Aladar, and the unicorn, those corpses were like backstage for a long time. And
Hmm.
I know this. I've seen some leaked photos from cast members backstage taking photos of these, and
Really?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
I've
we'll
seen a
have to
couple of
post
them.
those. That's really
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, I'll have to go back and find them again. But
Yeah, yeah. If you
um,
can send them to me, and I'll make sure
yeah,
they go up on our Instagram page.
yeah, but
But yeah,
crazy
yeah,
stuff.
it was really gruesome. Like they were like, I would get a couple. I would understand like a few like a helmet floating in the water or something
Yeah,
like that. But this was just like they were shish kebabbed. Like it
yeah,
was, yeah, it was rated R almost.
yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting. I don't see unless it was like a dragon with some like hands to do this. It didn't really fit the whole
Yeah,
theming of the of the dragon. I think having burnt helmets, things like that, and breastplates made a lot more sense than having full on shish kebabbed knights
yeah.
staring you
Seriously.
down while you're on the riverboat.
Yeah. But yeah, so the later videos I saw that all the fog was gone, so it really didn't make a lot of sense when you saw the fire shoot
Yeah.
out because it looked like it was just coming right out of the rock, and it just
Hmm.
didn't make any sense. It,
Yeah.
it, it was very sad. I was like,
No.
oh, this isn't
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and before we get into the actual meat of like what was supposed to be in the kingdom, I think
Yeah,
that the way they went about it was, and I wish they would have kept building and adding things to the riverboat to kind of add this hype because to me it's very like a la early Haunted Mansion in terms of the anticipation of like here are some teases
you're 100%
and
right.
then like it's gonna get everyone hyped about like what's gonna happen when they open the gates
Hmm.
of this kingdom. And I think that's why there's such a big following, especially in the early days for Beastly Kingdom. Was there was some hype around it? Obviously,
Yeah,
it became very minimal because they didn't really execute and follow through on some of their plans to build this hype and do this initial theming. I think if anything had gone through with it, it'd been very well received land, um, because, like I said, it was very much a build up similar to one of the greatest attractions ever built. And I think it also is similar to how, for different reasons, why Rise was so popular and still is pretty popular is that there was this kind of you saw the resistance base and you couldn't go in and then you finally could, and it had this kind of hype around it. And I think some of those
yeah.
best rides have that.
Yeah, and I suppose I'm assuming some of our listeners are wondering like why we're focusing on this riverboat if that's not even like the main meat and potatoes of what we're talking about. But you're absolutely right. This was sort of the way they were kind of teasing it and hyping it up.
Yeah,
There was this kind of this pile of rocks that looked like that was made to look like a dragon, and water was pouring out of its mouth.
Yeah.
And if you're crossing the bridge over into Pandora, you can see part of the cave. You can see some of the stonework of the cave, but you can see this stone formation now. The water's been shut off, and but you can still see it underneath, and it's so grown over now. And I wanna go back to that at the end of the episode, because I have a point I want to make there.
Sure.
But I think it would be best if we jumped into the actual land now. I guess, right? Yeah. So, do you want to cover one side and I'll cover the other, or
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
You pick whatever you want.
Yeah, I'll cover the light side.
Okay.
So there was two sides of this land. There was the kind of medieval fortress dark side, and then also this light side. And there was two attractions on the light side. One of them was the kind of labyrinth hedge maze attraction, similar to what we see in Paris, funny enough, with the Alice in Wonderland attraction, where you're in this hedge maze and you're walking through and seeing all these mythical creatures like a sphinx and a little more welcoming mythical creatures that you're walking through. And if you make it through the labyrinth, then you're welcomed into the Unicorn's Grotto, or I forget what the terminology was. Where it was. Yeah. Again, it's very similar. It feels very similar to how you have the dungeon of the castle in Paris, where you walk into this grotto and you're met with this magnificent unicorn, which I think is, and it was animatronic as well, and you're welcomed into their sanctuary, and you're treated to this exclusive experience. You were smart enough to make it through the labyrinth.
Yeah. Well, quick note on that animatronic that I thought you would appreciate. Joe Rohde, Daddy Joe, thought it would look a little awkward if the unicorn was talking. If they just had this audio animatronic talking horse there, he thought it would look like Mr. Ed with a horn. So they developed a sound system that they were going to have in there, where the sound traveled through at a low enough frequency so that you felt him talking inside you, like it was like he was telepathically talking to you. So it would kind of rumble in the walls and rumble in you, like he was talking to you telepathically, mythically, And I just can't imagine how special that or like how cool that would have been, just feeling that, and that is a real experience. They're always talking about experiences. That is really something different.
No, it makes me think of the special experience that you have when you build a lightsaber in Galaxy's Edge.
Yes,
is that you have this kind of overwhelming emotional experience to have that with it after kind of achieving this adventure that you've had through the Heads Maze, and then being treated to that unique experience. And then the other attraction, which is actually has a really great storied history in the Disney parks world, is the Fantasia Gardens attraction. Now this attraction was actually originally planned for Disneyland years prior to the inception of Animal Kingdom, but it just never worked out with their space and budget things. So then they decided this would be a perfect space to put in this. It was a boat ride where you got to enter these scenes from the classic Fantasia movie, where I don't know if it was in this version, but I know in the original version there was going to be Mickey at the end of Sorcerer's Apprentice on top of a mountain directing the water. But I think this was more focused on the animals like the Pegasus and the hippo and all those animals from that portion of the movie. And you would basically ride through these show scenes and see all those fantastical animals in addition to those characters we see in Fantasia. So I think it was a very beautiful, kind of relaxing, picturesque boat ride it was mainly an outdoor dark ride, from what I could tell. So very much, it was basically kind of like a mythical version of the Jungle Cruise. The way I kind of
Yeah.
look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. So from what I saw, yeah, you're absolutely right. It would have been, I think, really special, and I think they missed out a lot with this attraction, as with everything here. But
Yeah,
I really think this would have been great. But yeah, I think Mickey would have been cut from it. From what I saw,
I
most
think
of
so
this,
too.
yeah, yeah, and it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I think if you had that exact same ride with Mickey in it, it would be great in a Magic Kingdom, or
No, yeah. Well,
yeah,
and yeah, and so prior to them, because basically the way the history of this ride goes, it was supposed to be in Disneyland, and then they decided not to put it there because they had the space and the budget for it at the time.
yeah,
And then it's supposed to actually replace the swan boats in Magic Kingdom, because that used to go through the waters there, um, by the castle.
yeah,
So they were trying. Their plan was to work it in to that space. Obviously, nothing's there now. So
yeah,
and then Animal Kingdom happened. And they thought it'd be perfect to put in those characters, just the animals at that point,
yeah.
in Animal Kingdom.
I have to admit, the the pastoral scene segment and the alligator, then the one with the alligator and the hippos. Those are two of my favorite segments in Fantasia.
No, they're great.
So I definitely wish this film got the film in general just got a bit more love in the parks.
No,
Um,
yeah,
Outside of
exactly. And,
golf.
yeah, no, exactly. And that's what I was alluding to earlier. Is that I wish this IP was able to be represented, in the parks more. Like, again, outside of a miniature golf course, because it's such an important film in the, entertainment canon and history of
Yeah.
Disney entertainment, that it really deserves it. I think, again, it's missed out. Like not as many people have seen that movie as they should,
Yeah.
and so I think that's probably why it's not such a popular IP. Sorcerer Mickey is very popular, but outside of that, that movie and a lot of those characters are forgotten. So
Yeah.
it's too bad that we didn't get to see it
Yeah.
realized.
What one quote that from the making of that film that always sticks with me. I forget the exact contents or contexts of how it came up, but I think an animator was asking why they were putting so much into this film. Why aren't we just sticking with the formula of Snow White and Pinocchio for kids and
Sure.
that kind of thing. And Walt said, "Don't you understand? We have worlds to conquer here." And I think that says so much to the film as well is such a testament to the artisanship and the fact that
Oh, yeah.
that so many people have forgotten that animation is not a genre, it is a medium. It is a medium to tell stories for any kind for any audience.
Definitely.
So it's not just for kids, and I think so many people just kind of write it off as animation is just for children, and then
Yeah.
I think to their detriment.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah.
And then beyond the actual attractions, there was going to be a couple different shops, and I think Mother Goose had either a restaurant or a gift shop.
I remember hearing something about that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the more storied history is about the attractions, in the two lands. So that's kind of my synopsis of the light side of Beast of the Kingdom.
So across the way, down a twisted path. I actually have in my notes. I have creepy, twisty excitement. Was the dark side of Beastly Kingdom. This was a much more medieval. I don't know, Dark Ages sort of vibe. You had this little, they always refer to it in the notes that I see as a hamlet, but it's just like this little medieval village that's all run down and ramshackle. It's all lit by torches and flames bursting from the ground. And the idea behind this area is that it's a land taken over by an evil dragon. While I was doing my research, I did not find a name for the dragon, but I wish so badly they had named it, just because that would just complete the myth of all this.
For sure.
I know that the design of this dragon, who's supposed to reign over this area, was inspired by Smaug from The Hobbit, and we'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, so this was a lot, mainly a big chunk of the area would be shops and actually, from what I saw, pubs of kind of a rundown medieval town. There would be villagers there that would serve you, and I hope a bard in the tavern who would sing songs. I did see references that you would cross a billy goat bridge, where the billy goats were tied up and the ogre or the troll underneath had won. But I couldn't find any concept art of that, and I wanted to see it so bad. But yeah, so these winding path through the town would lead up to the e-ticket attraction, which would have been the Dragon Tower. And that would have been a suspended roller coaster, a suspension coaster going through, and essentially the plot of that would have been you would meet these bats, of all things, who wanted to steal the dragon's treasure. And how they would do that is they would fly you in a cauldron, and you would, I guess the idea would have been you'd scoop it up and they'd fly off with it. And of course it goes haywire and you get found out. The concept art is so stinking cool of this roller coaster.
Very much.
I don't even know. I can't even imagine how it would have looked if they had done this. At the time, the plan for this dragon was that he was going to be the largest audio animatronic they had done to date. Probably wouldn't have been. Yeah, and he probably wouldn't have been dwarfed until they did the Yeti. Ironically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you would swing by him sitting in this cauldron as he would blow fire at you, as you kind of swoop through the piles of treasure that he had. And I just think this would have been a hit if they had built it.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of the straightforward view of the coaster, but and the land in general here.
Yeah. No, it would have been such a unique experience, not only for a roller coaster at Disney World, because at that point they all pretty were standard ride vehicles for a roller coaster. This was going to be a bucket style roller coaster, which is going to be you're going to be below the track, which was unique for even mini roller coasters today. And I thought was really fascinating reading about this coaster is that a lot of it was going to be outside. Is that you're going to be weaving through ruins of the castle and things like that, which have been super fun, and the theming and immersion have been really great. And then the finale was entering the castle finally to try your best to steal some treasure. I think not only the experience have been great, I think the merchandise around it have been really awesome.
Right.
So cool, and I think it was so different from everything else because there's not much that's dark in Disney attractions and Disney World in general. This would be very much a darker attraction and more adventurous than most.
Yeah, no, I very much agree. Unfortunately, these plans got all kind of put on the back burner again and again for a lot of different reasons. Camp Mini Mickey was a bit of a hit, actually, for no other reason, really, than Festival of the Lion King. It was a very popular show. It has since moved, I think, to Africa. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right by Harambe.
Yeah. Of course, they had to move it out for Pandora. And so, so now the land is has been taken up by Pandora. What are your thoughts on Pandora?
I think it's a very beautiful land. My actually first time in Pandora was back in July, and
okay.
I was expecting more, to be honest.
Yes.
Just because I had everyone really hype it up to me, and I'm actually a fan of Avatar, the James Cameron movie. I do enjoy it. It's not my favorite movie, but I do find enjoyment in it as a sci-fi fan. That I think it fits the theming of Animal Kingdom, and that's even still now becoming somewhat of a Beast of Kingdom stan. I think it definitely still fits the theming of Animal Kingdom for conservation, and it's a mythical and sci-fi version of conservation. I think it fits. But again, I was underwhelmed by the land. I think the floating mountains are beautiful, and I think now somewhat iconic. The boat ride, what is it called?
Navi River Journey. Yeah,
it's fine. I wish there was more physical animatronics, physical set pieces there. It's very much screen based, which I'm underwhelmed by. And again, I think my opinion might change a little bit after I ride Flight of Passage, because when I was there, I was unable to ride it due to some wait times and things like that. So I've yet to ride Flight of Passage. But for everything I've seen, I think it looks beautiful, and I think I'll really enjoy it once I ride it. But beyond the attractions, I think the land falls short a little bit. I think there's some really good snacks there. Obviously, Tule Canteens is great, but the shops are very underwhelming. I was there when, and I don't know if they've restocked them since, but the Banshees, there was no I think the Banshees are out of stock right now, or were out of stock for a little bit. I think that's probably the most interesting part of that Wind Traders is the Banshee section. The rest of the merchandise to me is very underwhelming. And we've talked about this before, is that I really enjoy merchandise that makes me feel part of the land, and I think having these cheapo blue ears and tails are pretty mediocre. I wish there was some Ace merchandise where you could buy t-shirts and kind of t-shirts and button-ups that make you feel like you're part of that crew. I think that would be much better merchandise in that store, but the rest of the things is pretty much garbage. Unless you're a big Avatar fan, which I'm a fan of the movie, but not enough to walk around with blue ears and a tail and some glow in the dark daggers. Which I maybe I would have a higher opinion of Pandora if I was there at night, because I hear that land really sings at night. Obviously, if you watch the movie, it makes sense why it does so well at night, because everything's so bioluminescent and glowing. But overall, I'm a fan of Pandora, but I was a bit underwhelmed, and maybe going there more often and having the full experience of Pandora, because I was only there for a short time, just due to the time constraints we had when we were there that day on that trip. Maybe additional trips to Pandora would definitely change my opinion a little bit. But what are your thoughts on Pandora?
I was underwhelmed by it, and I think there is some great stuff. I love the canteen. I like the drinks that they have there. That was great.
Oh, yeah.
I would say Flight of Passage is a wonderful ride. Not made for a big guy like me,
Sure.
because they kind of lock you in those seats and
Yeah.
they're just very uncomfortable. If I was not like in agony, I think I would have enjoyed the ride a lot more. That being said, I did enjoy the ride a lot. It is
Okay.
an incredible ride.
Yeah.
And I think it is an achievement.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, of course. Do I like Navi River Journey? No, I don't. I
Yeah.
think I'm a little jaded because I waited like 3 hours for it.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and it was so underwhelming. And I still maintain that it is an underwhelming ride, and it is not worth the wait unless you are maybe 20 minutes tops. To me, is it a great effect? Yes. Is it beautiful? Yes. There's nothing there that is fundamentally bad. It's just, is the ride worth the length of time that I waited? No, it is not. It is not by my experience. And that is not anything on the Imagineers or anything. It just wasn't for me, and I think it could have been longer and it could have been more of an experience. I just don't feel like it got a lot out of it.
Because I hate to pass final judgment on Pandora until I actually experience it during normal times and also be able to go at night.
Absolutely.
Because the images and things like that I've seen of kind of normal park operations and in the evening, I think it's one of the most breathtaking lands in all of Walt Disney World. And I'd love to experience that firsthand. But for me, middle of the day in July when the park's at half strength cast member wise, I was a bit underwhelmed, to be honest.
Yeah. No,
I would say the floating mountains are one of the most beautiful, especially recent additions. Yeah, recent additions to the park. So that to me is one of my favorite kind of land icons out of all lands in Walt Disney World. I would say that is true, but everything else around the land is, again, I need to experience more of it to give a final judgment on it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. It just feels like everything's cramped. But that also leads me into thinking, like, how would this have been laid out if it was Beastly Kingdom? How would that have been cramped? Because would it have utilized more space? I don't know. Because
they would have had to. They would have had to.
Yeah. I don't see, because if you look at the concept art, I don't see how they would have had it work without utilizing a good amount of space, because especially with the light side, it's based on these large vistas of almost like Grecian frescoes, and that kind of art style, and you can't do that in a cramped space, really.
Not at all. Not at all. And I think we're not going to see the last. I think Pandora has a stage 2 in its future. I've heard that from the very beginning, that this is like a multi-stage expansion. So there's more land back there that they can expand into, and I think it's going to depend on the popularity and the reception of these upcoming
next ones.
James Cameron Avatar movies, because I hear they have a river attraction. Like a full river attraction, potentially slated, because that's the centerpiece of this next movie. Is that I think there's 4 movies going to be total in the saga, and each one of them is centered around a different part of conservation. The first one was very much around like logging and environmental conservation. The next one will be, I think, water conservation will be kind of the theme. Will be like the overarching message, kind of how, So I'm very intrigued to see how that pans out, because again, there's another 3 movies set to come out in the next, who knows, probably 50 years at the pace they're coming out with the between the first one and the second one. But
I think the second one was supposed to come out last year, and then
correct.
COVID hit, and now it's set for 2022. So
I'm excited. I'm excited, and if it does well, I would love to see more space utilized with Pandora. Because I really think the dream of having Beastly Kingdom is definitely no longer in the cards at this point. And I'm curious your thoughts on this too. Is that how much longer do you expect to see the dragon iconography in Animal Kingdom? And do you ever see them replacing that dragon with potentially like a banshee head? And then same with that dragon that's in the a lot of the art. Do you foresee that happening? Because it would make sense in terms of the theming of the park if they're going to fully commit to Pandora as that mythical side of that story that Animal Kingdom tries to tell.
Why do you say these things to hurt me?
I know.
Well, I actually talked about this with Josh, and he made a great. Well, I mean, he made a point of saying, who's it hurting?
Sure.
The rock formation isn't in the way of anything. It isn't using any energy. Why waste, your time doing it as it is?
Yeah.
It's being
I'm referring to the entrance sign. If they're going to remove that.
But so many people don't even notice it,
True.
Would they change the logo? I think the logo is fine the way it is, even without that. You can, there's kind of a, just an understood thing of like, oh yeah, most people just write it off as a banshee as it is already. So
fair.
Do I see the possibility of them changing it in the future? Yeah, no, I mean, it could happen. I don't see why it's like a necessary thing. I think they have a lot bigger problems and a lot other more important things to deal with right now than just the synergy of this one logo that they haven't touched in decades. Meanwhile, you've had I think all the other parks, maybe outside of Magic Kingdom, have switched through how many different logos in the past 20 years.
True.
So
yeah. Because
there's something so solid about the design of it.
Yeah, and I'm curious if because the 30th anniversary is coming up, or 40th.
30th.
30th anniversary.
We're not that old.
Yeah.
Yet. Please don't do that to me.
Yeah. The 30th anniversary has doing the math wrong. I wonder if at the 30th anniversary if they'll look at sprucing up that entry, and that might happen then. And at that point, we'll kind of know if the Pandora expansions are in the pipeline, because I definitely see that happening if they just do decide to add in, because in the movie there's the Banshee, but then there's also like this like larger Banshee that's like the King Banshee. I forget the name of it. I definitely see them putting that imagery there, and removing that dragon from the entrance. In the end, but I don't think they'll touch that stone dragon for much. I think they'll just let the vegetation grow over at that point and let the vegetation take care of that.
Yeah.
At this point,
because it was pretty big, and now you just really only see the head.
Well, yeah, and I think just natural erosion is wearing it away at this point as well. So I think it's going to be, I think it's just going to kind of fade away into the history. Of Animal Kingdom at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you think that there's no chance we could ever see anything like this in the future?
Not Animal Kingdom, and I know that part of my homework for the show was trying to figure out a way to bring Beastly Kingdom back. And
how you would.
Yeah, how I would. And I think in Animal Kingdom it's a lost cause. I think that Pandora and that concept is going to be the thing they keep working on, and I think we'll see a renovation to Dino Land hopefully too. Is that I think the only way that we'll see Beastly Kingdom is in a fifth gate. And I think, because you talked about this probably a month or so ago on your TikTok lives, about a villain's park. And I think that at least the dark side of Beastly Kingdom would be brought to fruition in a villain's park potentially. I think that's one of the places it fits the best. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about this too, and I wonder if we saw a greater success with Onward, if there would be a greater potential for Beastly Kingdom to happen, because that whole world is mythical, and it would fit very well. And not to make it an Onward land or attraction, but I think it was kind of a test market in a way to see if mythical stories and creatures were wanted by Disney fans in general. And so I think that I would be much more jazzed on the idea. I'm jazzed on the idea of bringing Beastly Kingdom back, but I think in actual practicality, I wonder if that would have pushed the pendulum towards more of a stronger reality, and would be part of a fifth gate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's funny that you say that, and then, that came out right when COVID hit, so it's yet another thing to just sock that theme in the jaw.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that movie was at a bad timing.
Yeah. I would say if it wasn't for the fact that the dinosaur attraction was in Dino Land, and for the adage of the Nemo show kind of us as of yesterday being unaware of its fate, I would have said that whole section could have been, a possible place to, let Universal have the dinosaurs. They've won the Dino Wars. And make this Beastly Kingdom now. Just put a few extra bones on the skeleton, and you have a giant dinosaur, dragon skeleton, and then just close it off for a little bit, and boom, here's a whole new land. Yeah. However, with the adage of dinosaur there, the fact that there have been rumors going around for years that it's gonna kind of get that Indiana Jones revamp, the movie coming out soon. I wouldn't be surprised if the writing on the wall now is to kind of shift that land, make it a little bit more archaeological, and kind of gear it more towards. I think what we talked about on another episode of making it a little bit more adventure geared.
Yeah, no, we definitely talked about. Like, it was one of our early episodes we talked about.
Yeah,
and I was thinking, and I brought this up in that show too. I think I still got to hold this to be true. Is that I would love to see them keep. I would love to kind of transform that area into an indie area, but still have that dinosaur theming, because what we see in Disneyland is that it has this very unique and its own storyline, and not leading into in the movies is that we still have a unique story told in Disney World and Animal Kingdom with Indy, but something around the lines of dinosaurs. I think that would be a great way to still maintain that theming. And I think I love the idea of having the mythical, the modern, and the prehistoric animals represented in the park. That we still, I would still like to keep the dinosaurs in Animal Kingdom, but I think that would be a way to kind of bridge the gap of bringing an IP that we all love in Indiana Jones, but also still maintain the dinosaur theming.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. I also spent way too long looking at Google Earth maps of the Disney property to see what open land they have, in the Animal Kingdom area vicinity.
Oh, okay.
I think they have a lot of back area. I think the area around Rafiki's Planet Watch, could be used theoretically. You could build it, off of an area by Everest, since the Yeti is also a mythological beast, and so you could kind of backdoor it in that way. But then I also took a couple minutes and I designed another park again, and so what I kind of tried to do there was not necessarily like I did it kind of based on like the spokes, the
The
wheel
hub, yeah.
method, of Magic Kingdom. So you enter in this sort of village that's so like it's a coastal village, but it's still kind of that medieval vibe.
Hmm.
You go off to the side, and there's a whole land that's all aquatic, sea monster based.
Oh.
You could even have a bit of Luca influence there, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, there we go. That's true.
Yeah. And then if you keep going straight, however, where I guess your fantasy land would be, is the area, the land called Dragon's Keep, which would be your dragon, the Dark Land, and the castle, the burnt out castle would be sort of the weenie that would, draw you in like Cinderella Castle.
Sure.
Off in the direction of Adventureland would be Fantasia Gardens in its own land,
Oh,
a
okay.
lot more expanded. You'd have a Hercules attraction there, so working into Pegasus.
Pegasus, yeah.
You would still have like a few IPs here and there, just that make
Of course.
sense. That
Yeah.
makes sense. And then I think in the Frontierland area, you could have kind of those kind of out there mythological creatures that are more desert based, maybe even the Thunderbird from Native
Oh,
American
yeah.
myth, things like that. And then off kind of, I guess, where you would say Tomorrowland or New Fantasyland would be an area that I call Alpine Pass, which actually works in cryptids as well. And cryptids are more of those things like Bigfoot, the Sasquatch,
Yeah.
Loch Ness Monster, maybe. Some of those really the more urban legend kind of creatures.
Yeah.
I think outside of the show, I'm a Mothman fan, so you could even maybe work him in there somehow. I don't know, but legends of these creatures from all around the
Yeah.
world, and really have it as its own park, because I think the idea is big enough where you can have all
Sure.
these things cohabitating, and maybe there was a wizard who maybe the way you could build it up, there was a wizard who had to hide all these creatures away from the world. Maybe he was someone who went into hiding years ago, who knew magic, and maybe had
yeah.
what?
Well, go ahead. I think I know where you're going, but I also
Yes.
thought.
A great wizard from years ago who had to save all these creatures and protect these beasts imagined by man, and has a small friend at his side, a small purple dragon who helps guide him. And the wizard who hid
Oh.
this away was the Dreamfinder.
Oh.
And that because he went missing the same time all of this fell apart. So I created a bit of a story where he's been protecting and taking care of all these creatures for the past several decades in solitude.
Ooh.
So it could be like a kind of a hype thing, and then you
Yeah.
could work him back in, and he could help along with Figment, to be, I don't know. That's stupid,
Yeah.
but
No,
it's my idea.
I do love that, but I still have the hopes and dreams that the original Journey Through Imagination will be brought back to Epcot.
Oh, yeah. Always.
I was thinking that you're going to the
Merlin?
Jensen was the
Oh, Jensen! You could do Jensen
Jens-
too.
yeah,
That would be great.
What was kind of like the arbiter of this land.
My only thing with more with Merlin is I would hold off with Merlin just because that's more of a correlation to Harry Potter and Universal and like that kind of things. But I thought tying in some Disney history to kind of
definitely.
build it up would be fun.
Yeah.
But
No, and hearing you talk about this makes me think again where Universal is going to get this before we do and kind of steal the thunder is that when the new third gate that they're building there, they plan to have a whole magical beasts and where to find them land.
yeah, Fantastic Beast. Yeah.
Fantastic Beasts, yes. And I think we might see the Thunderbird, things like that. I think again, where Universal first builds a mythical land, it's going to deter Disney from doing that in the future.
Again, because that happened with Islands of Adventure. Because so many of those fired Imagineers went over, and then they helped build the Lost Continent, which wasn't by no means was like a 1-to-1 scale, like this is Beastly Kingdom, but a lot of that inspiration.
A lot of the inspiration. And I thought it was fascinating that I was reading something that Michael Eisner didn't really have much idea what they were building at Islands of Adventure, and then he went to visit, and he was like, "Oh, I've heard this stuff before." And they had a dragon ride, and I think even like a unicorn cove or something like that. There,
I think it was like Flight of the Unicorn.
Yeah, and he was like, "Oh, they've done this already, so let's completely scrap it."
That was like the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, and I think that Joe was really excited for this land, and I think the Yeti was kind of his ode to the early concepts of Beastly Kingdom, bringing a mythical creature from myth and history into Animal Kingdom, at least in some way.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And you know what? Quite honestly, I'm going back to one of your questions you asked me earlier. I guess if they swapped out the dragon with the Yeti in the logo, that might be a nice homage. That I would be okay with that. I still want it to be like a mythical thing, but I guess I could part with it if they did it that way. But I'm still not totally ready. For that.
But we will see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we definitely will. But the crazy thing is, a lot of that work that got done in Universal Islands of Adventure for the Lost Continent has slowly kind of been whittled away, and a lot of it's gone now because it's been eaten up by Harry Potter. Yeah. So I just kind of want to, I guess, in closing, as I went through this, I kind of got reflective, and I know it feels silly taking this concept this seriously, but to me, there is this deep something very special about this subject to me personally, because it's set out to bring all these legends, all these myths to life and bring them to the forefront so you could experience them, and then to have setback after setback after setback, and now so much of this is fading away, is eroding on the banks of a river now, hardly noticed by anyone. But if you know the legends, if you know the stories and know where to look, it's there, and the story is still there. And so in trying to bring to life all these myths, it became a myth, it became a legend itself, and I think there was something so profound about that. And again, I know it's a theme park, and I know it's just brick and mortar, but there is something ideologically, I guess, that is so profound to me about that, because it's just created its own legend, and
it really has.
It's something so beautiful in that to me.
No, definitely, that's a very profound point. I think you're spot on with that. I think that's the beauty of the story of Beastly Kingdom is now it is a myth in its own. I think it's a very profound thought.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Ended on a bit of a bummer there, folks.
Yeah. A very deep existential moment there.
But we invite you guys next week to continue this journey with us as we hype up the celebration coming down at the Walt Disney World Resort for their 50th anniversary next week. I think we're going to be journeying over to that sweet old town of Hollywood Studios. Some of you call it MGM still. We don't care. Whatever you want to call it, we're just after a good time. So we'll meet you over there next week. But right now, I just got a notification on my phone. We actually got a fast pass to Flight of Passage. Let's get you over there, buddy.
Nice. How much was that?
Look, I got this Friday's payday. We will figure it out. You can PayPal me if necessary.
Perfect.
All right. We'll see you next time, folks.
See you next week.
Hey, folks, thanks for listening. If you want more Hubgrass in your life, you can find Matt separately at Matt Arterberry on TikTok or on YouTube at Matt and Mary Kate. Or you can find me at Unofficial Disney CEO on TikTok. Of course, you can always find us together on our Instagram at OnTheHubgrassPod, where we post content regularly. If you like what we do and you want to help make our show better, please consider joining our Patreon. Until next time, remember, there's a great, big, beautiful podcast, and it's just a stream away. We'll see you on the Hubgrass, folks.